The source said, "This was a classic intelligence community tactic. Haul people in under the guise of investigating their movements, so they can then bully them into doing what they wanted. The move also started a hate campaign against paparazzi, all to distract from the role spies had in assassinating Diana. Paparazzi photographers were to Diana's death what Lee Harvey Oswald was to JFK's shooting, scapegoats for a conspiracy brewed in the corridors of power." Pictures taken at the time of Diana's crash are thought to contain evidence of a blinding flash of light being beamed at Diana's driver Henri Paul, forcing him to crash. The source added the violent lengths to which the agents were prepared to go to obtain photographs taken at the scene of Diana's crash is demonstrated by what he and many others are convinced was the murder of one of the world's most profitable paparazzi. The source also claims the death of Anderson was 100% assassinated. James was a pap some believe to have been recruited by ruthless agents and forced to become part of Diana's assassination team. Though it was a story that Colin had found initially fantastic, the source told us something we didn't know. There were also 2 bullet holes in Anderson's head when they found him burned. He had apparently also bragged of secretly taking explosive photos of the scene, and even bragged of driving the second vehicle, if you believe the rumours. And for reasons unexplained to this day, Anderson was boarding a plane bound for Corsica less than 6 hours after the crash. With this new information, it was something we, as an investigative team, would need to focus on, and we did. In the weeks leading up to James's death, he had a series of meetings with famed French crime author Frédéric Dard to discuss the book that would blow the lid off a conspiracy to kill the princess. In yet another twist, Frédéric also died in 2000, a few weeks after James's apparent suicide. Because the critically acclaimed author, beloved in France for writing more than 300 crime novels, was killed by a heart attack aged 78, and only a handful of confidants knew of his meeting with James, Frédéric's death was not immediately linked to the web of Diana conspiracy theories. We can also reveal today how an additional paparazzo believed he was targeted by spies in the wake of Diana's crash. Darren Lyons, aged 52, dubbed Mr. Paparazzi, while running London-based agency Big Pictures during the 1990s, is convinced Diana was assassinated. He was one of the first people to be sent photographs of Diana's death scene on August 31, 1997, and his officers were then almost immediately targeted in what he believes was a burglary, in an attempt by the Secret Services to obtain the snaps. Days later, according to Darren, he came to his office to find it in darkness, with the cause of the power loss never identified. His Big Pictures agency was also hit with telephone death threats, and Darren then heard a ticking noise at the premises he reported as a bomb before becoming convinced the agency's phones were bugged after hearing clicking noises on the line. On September 2, 1997, Darren handed over copies of the Diana death pictures he had been sent to a police constable from Islington Police Station. He has since said he feels lucky not to have been killed in all the cloak and dagger stuff in the wake of Diana's death. Interviewed for this book, here is Darren's full account of the shady circumstances surrounding the incidents. On the night in question, I spoke to Piers Morgan, who was editor, I think, at the Daily Mirror at the time. I know Phil Hall was editor of the News of the World, and he was talking directly to Rupert Murdoch at the time. I had the world exclusive at my feet. Not even the editors at the time believed what was going on, and they were making checks anywhere, and nothing was coming through the wire services. These photos were literally minutes after the accident. They were extraordinary and very graphic. Our information was that Diana was certainly unconscious, and that it looked as if she may have broken an arm or something to that effect. There's no way we knew the seriousness of it at the time, but we did know that Dodie was in terrible trouble. I was in communication with the editor of the News of the World at the time. Naturally, on such a big story like this, money was being talked about for the exclusive right to publish the pictures. Because people were still not believing that this had actually happened, it unfolded very quickly. I spoke to Piers Morgan, and we had a very in-depth conversation. He was an incredible voice of reason for me about the situation. When we found out that Diana had passed away, those pictures had to be taken off the market. I was inundated naturally with calls from around the world about the pictures, but I had made the decision these were pictures that the world should not be seeing. You wouldn't have said from the photos that I saw coming into our office in London that the Princess of Wales was going to pass away.